Hi everyone, I'm Nate Law and I want to talk to you today about 2 essential checklists that every law firm owner should have. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also at the end of this video I will have a way for you to download the printable checklist that we're talking about today. So when I became a law firm owner and not just a practitioner, I had a whole new set of responsibilities that I had to keep track of. The first stage was I had to just learn how to do them and learn what they were. The second stage, which lasted all too long really, and I want to help you avoid, is figuring out when to do them and what a good cadence or rhythm is for that, so that you don't always have this nagging, stressful feeling that you might be missing something as you're going through your month, through your year as an owner and not just a practitioner. What these 2 checklists have done for me is really fine-tune and hone my process of managing the financial and regularly scheduled aspects of my firm, and it gives me a lot more peace of mind. So what I'm going to do with you today is walk through the owner's essential annual checklist. So let's take a look at that. So we all know that come January, it's a new tax year. There's a lot of different things that we got to be looking at, but one of those that's at the top of my list in January is sending out 1099s to any contractors. Anyone that you've hired that's not an employee, they need to get that document. You work with your tax pro to help get that done. Next on there is simply reviewing the prior year's books that you've gotten from your bookkeeper or that you've put together through QuickBooks or whatever program you're using. So you're going to review those. You're going to send those to your CPA or accountant. And there's also some other things that may change depending on the state and depending on what kind of insurance you have. But for me, I have to renew and pay my workers' comp that's through the state that I'm in, as well as any benefits plans that allow me to have certain kind of benefits in place for my employees. Those usually relate to retirement plans or health plans. As the owner of your firm or a shareholder in your firm, you've got to be able to have the goals for that year in place and set up. So you may want to do this in December or start the process in November, December. I usually kind of put most of it in January. I do a lot of prep work in November, December, but I kind of solidify them in January. So that's on my list here, is setting those annual project-based and financial goals for my business. Next on the checklist, all of the tax quarterlies that are due and when they're due. So that's for federal and state taxes. As a business, you got to pay quarterly estimates. You got to get that done. And it's amazing how easily that can slip your mind. You'll see the other thing that I highlight throughout the annual checklist is the quarterly leadership meetings. And this is something that I do. We have a leadership team historically of 3 to 4 people, but you want to make sure those quarterly meetings and those planning sessions are really an integral part of your rhythm throughout the year. If they don't get on the calendar, you're gonna forget them, and you're gonna make excuses why you can just do that a little later because you got too much other work to do. So put these highlighted. Those are the 2 things that I highlight in my annual checklist. Now let's take a look at February and March. Those look a little sparse on my checklist personally, because I just don't have a lot of specialized annual things that I need to get done in those months. One in February is simply submitting my annual corporate personal property return. Again, this is something that, depending on the state, city, or county that you live in, is kind of a unique thing. But basically, if there's any other tax related or specific county things or just kind of smaller things, I like to try to get those done as long as the due dates allow, in kind of a different month than I'm dealing with the major taxes, either the annual return or quarterly payments. So that's why I like to put it offset a little bit. March, I already talked about this, the quarterly meeting. So that's highlighted there, and that's the main thing in March that I need to remember. In April, we've got a bunch of the tax things that are due. And so again, that's highlighted there. Renewing and paying our corporate insurance policy. That's something that, again, depending on when you start your firm, when due dates are for this particular insurance policy. So for May, you're coming up on almost halfway through the year. That's why I like to put a reminder for me to kind of sit down and take a little bit of time to very specifically just review where I'm at with my annual goals, and just kind of review where we're at in terms of whether areas we need to readjust maybe, or some things we need to add, or if we need to break down steps into more kind of bite-sized pieces to be successful for our annual goals at that point. And for the city and state that I'm in, We have our annual business license renewal in May. It's not a big thing. It just comes to me in the mail and I just send it back out. But it's good to have the reminder in there that for some reason, if you get to May and you haven't seen that letter yet, that you're looking for it, and just to make sure that it gets done and complete by the end of that month. So this may be in a different month for you, but that's when it is for me. June is the all-important second quarterly meeting for you and your leadership team. And again, it's a tax month, so you want to make sure you get your quarterlies in. And some other things that are essential for me is filing my annual report with the state, with the corporate division. And again, this may depend, on what month you initially made your filing with whatever state you're in. So this could be in any state, but this is an annual thing that doesn't take a lot of time, but is extremely important and usually has a due date on it. So you want to make sure that that is definitely something on this checklist. And another big thing for me that I find it's not something that's really super as important as taxes per se, but can be really annoying if you forget, is just renewing all of your business or firm or specific practice area memberships. So if you're in an estate planning group, if you're in a criminal defense group, or you have certain either online or other membership things that you need to renew every year just for your lawyers or your staff, that's a good thing to have on the calendar just so that you get it done, and also so that you can have that reminder for your budget. Now, summertime, that's my favorite time of year. So if I have control in my business and I don't want to schedule a lot of things, I'm not going to. I try to separate out a lot of the big annual tasks out into different months so that it's kind of broken up a little bit. So I make sure I have time to adequately focus on each one. But you'll see for the summer, I put an annual firm summer party. We do an annual family summer party and kind of a annual, employee and spouse kind of party in the winter. And those are two, very critical things for me, for my firm, traditions that we have, just really important cultural pillars that we've always had. So those are things that should be on your list too. Anything that is really crucial relates to continuing the culture of your firm. Now, looking at August, the annual corporate meeting or signing corporate meeting notes and making sure you have a log of that. That's something that I find to be pretty perfunctory, and I kind of separate that out a little bit from my own kind of personal, more reflective parts of my business and how I'm planning. But it's something that, again, is depending on how your business is set up, whether you're an LLC, a professional corporation, whatever you are, that's going to be something that's really important to have on your list. And it may or may not be time bound. For me, as long as it happens in the calendar year, we're good. That's what needs to happen. So just make sure that's on your list. You can kind of be flexible with where you put that. That kind of moves us into the owner's individual annual retreat. I think you should have one of these. I've always kind of been hesitant to implement this as something official, but I think it needs to be in every owner's manual. It needs to be on your annual essential owner's checklist, and other people need to know about it. So by other people, I mean anybody on your team, because I think it's important. You can make it flexible. You can make it on a weekend or not. It needs to happen, and it needs to be on this checklist. Another thing that I've found very helpful for my own peace of mind, and I think that helps get you ahead of the curve on technology issues, is having an annual meeting with your tech advisor or security tech advisor in particular, just to see what updates need to happen, just to see if you've got all of the necessary things in place to make your online files secure, to make sure that your email communications are secure, make sure that your passwords are adequately up to date, all of those kind of things. And so back to dealing with more government agencies. So any BOLI or US Labor Department kind of, people that you may have to deal with on a regular basis, just to make sure that all of your filings are up to date, that they know how many employees are working for you, all of those kind of things. Now for me, the end of the year, kind of November, December is where the rubber really meets the road for my ownership responsibilities, because I'm typically renewing a lot of things with my team, or giving them a lot of updates and information related to health insurance renewal, if that's something you provide, or matching for retirement, if that's something you provide. These are all things that typically have their open enrollment periods in, October, November, December, in that time frame. And so you want to make sure you're setting up meetings with your other professionals who provide those services for you in advance to make sure your team has time to make decisions, and those decisions get made in a timely fashion, so you have enough time to make sure that any updates are done. And that really helps my process a lot towards the end of the year, especially when I'm busy with a lot of other stuff, both personally and professionally in that kind of holiday season. So for December, don't forget your last quarterly leadership meeting. For me, I kind of make this more of a longer meeting. I make it more of an annual one. So whereas my other quarterly meetings might be a half day, this one I might make a full day and make it more of a planning session with me and my leadership team. Usually I try to throw a little bit of fun into it too. And also, as I said, it's important for the culture or firm that I run to have that annual holiday party. That's a big thing that we enjoy doing together. And then I'm going to run through these quickly because these are things that every lawyer knows that they need to do. But paying that professional liability insurance, renewing bar memberships, making sure that any trust accounting updates are made, whether the bank account is up to date, whether you've reported all that necessary information to the bar for all the annual things that you need to do. And so that's all on there. And I always have kind of a separate checklist for every attorney that's working with me and make sure that we check those off as well. But this is your master checklist for making sure that those steps are being done.